Roald Dahl, Dirty Beasts, illustrated by Quentin Blake. The Pig. In England once there lived a pig, a big and wonderfully clever pig. To everybody it was plain that Piggy had a massive brain. He worked out sums inside his head. There was no book he hadn't read. He knew what made an airplane fly. He knew how engines worked and why. He knew all this, but in the end, one question drove him round the bend. He simply couldn't puzzle out what life was really all about. What was the reason for his birth? Why was he placed upon this earth? His giant brain went round and round. Alas, no answer could be found, till suddenly one wondrous night, all in a flash, he saw the light. He jumped up like a ballet dancer and yelled, "By gum, I've got the answer!" They want my bacon slice by slice to sell at a tremendous price. They want my tender, juicy chops to put in all the butchers' shops. They want my pork to make a roast, and that's the part I'll cost the most. They want my sausages in strings. They even want my chitterlings, the butcher's shop, the carving knife. That is the reason for my life. Such thoughts as these are not designed to give a pig great peace of mind. Next morning, in comes Farmer Bland, a pail of pig squill in his hand, and Piggy, with a mighty roar, bashes the farmer to the floor. Now comes the rather grisly bit, so let's not make too much of it, except that you must understand that Piggy did eat Farmer Bland. He ate him up from head to toe, chewing the pieces nice and slow. It took an hour to reach the feet, because there was so much to eat. And when he'd finished, Piggy, of course, felt absolutely no remorse. Slowly he scratched his brainy head, and with a little smile he said, "I had a fairly powerful hunch that he might have me for his lunch, and so, because I feared the worst, I thought I'd better eat him first. There's Piggy with Farmer Bland inside his tummy, just Farmer Bland's tie, the only thing that seems to be remaining. And the next poem, The Ant-Eater. Some wealthy folks from USA who lived near San Francisco Bay possessed an only child called Roy, a plump and unattractive boy, half-baked, half-witted and half-boiled, but worst of all, most dreadfully spoiled. Whatever Roy desired each day, his father brought him right away. Toy motor cars, electric trains, the latest model aeroplanes, a colour television set, a saxophone, a clarinet, expensive teddy bears that talked, and animals that walked and squawked. That house contained sufficient toys to thrill 500,000 boys. As well as this, young Roy would choose 2 pairs a week of brand new shoes. And now he stood there shouting, "What on earth is there I haven't got? How hard to think of something new. The choices are extremely few." Now we'll continue the story. Then added, as he scratched his ear, "Hold it, I've got a good idea. I think the next thing I must get should be a most peculiar pet, that kind that no one else has got. A giant ant-eater, why not?" So soon as father heard the news, he quickly wrote to all the zoos. "Dear sirs," he said, "my dear keepers, do any of you have ant-eaters?" They answered by return of mail, "Our ant-eaters are not for sale." Undaunted, Roy's fond parent hurled more messages across the world. He said, "I'll pay you through the nose if you can get me one of those." At last he found an Indian gent. He lived near Delhi in a tent, who said that he would sacrifice his pet for an enormous price. The price demanded, if you please, was 50,000 gold rupees. The ant-eater arrived, half dead. It looked at Roy and softly said, "I'm famished. Do you think you could please give me just a little food? A crust of bread, a bit of meat. I haven't had a thing to eat in all the time I was at sea, for nobody looked after me." Roy shouted, "No, no bread or meat. Go find some ants. there what you eat?" The starving creature crawled away. It searched the garden night and day. It hunted every inch of ground, but not a single ant it found. Here we have a picture of the poor anteater in the luxurious garden. "Please give me food," the creature cried. "Go find an ant," the boy replied. By chance, upon that very day, Roy's father's sister came to stay. A foul old hag of 83, whose name, it seems, was Dorothy. She said to Roy, "Come, let us sit out in the sun and talk a bit." Roy said, "I don't believe you've met my new and most unusual pet." He pointed down among the stones where something lay all skin and bones. "Ant-eater," he yelled, "don't lie there yawning. This is my ant. Come say good morning." Some people in the USA have trouble with the words they say. However hard they try, they can't pronounce a simple word like aunt. Instead of aunt, they call it ant. Instead of can't, they call it can't. Roy yelled, "Come here, you so-and-so. My aunt would like to say hello." Slowly the creature raised its head. "Do you mean that's an ant?" it said. "Of course," replied Roy. "Aunt Dorothy. This ant is over 83. The creature smiled. Its tummy rumbled. It licked its starving lips and mumbled, "A giant ant! By gosh, a winner! At last I'll get a decent dinner. No matter if it's 83, if that's an ant, then it's for me." Then, taking very careful aim, it pounced upon the startled dame. It grabbed her firmly by the hair and ate her up right then and there. Murmuring as it chewed the feet, "The largest ant I'll ever eat." There you see the anteater taking Aunt Dorothy. Meanwhile, our hero Roy had sped in terror to the potting shed and tried to make himself obscure behind a pile of horse manure. But Ant-eater came sneaking in. Really, it was much less thin. Already it was much less thin, and said to Roy, "You little squirt, I think I'll have you for dessert." And that's the story of the Ant-eater.